everyone, Theo De Blic here. We are here in Saint-Hilaire for a new tutorial. This time it's a really important tutorial. We're going to talk about rescues and mainly how to use your rescues, the important stuff you need to know when you want to use your rescue. And I'm going to then pull the rescue, try to show you the best way to do it and the way I think is the best way to do it. I'm not going to give you a tutorial on how you should use your rescue. I'm going to give you a tutorial on how I use mine. And then you can take whatever you want from this, but remember that you should always try to find your own way of using your rescue by thinking about it, by thinking about how to use it, when to use it, why to use it, but it should always come from you. What I'm gonna say in this tutorial are just my way of doing it and how I like to do it. In this tutorial, I'm gonna speak about the rescue. I've made a really long one-hour talk about rescue, how to use it with real-life situation, etc. on the Nova YouTube page. I'm gonna put the link here. You're gonna be able to click on it if you want to get more information. In this tutorial, I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible, as effective as possible, so you won't get all the information you need. You're just gonna get the most important information that you might need one day, all right? But if you want more information, go to the Nova YouTube page and there you can find my rescue speech in which I'm really talking about the rescue, my experience, how to use it, when to use it, why to use it, and giving you a lot more info that I'm gonna give you in this video, all right? So in this tutorial, I'm gonna use the iAdventure Beamer 3, the 130 kilos. I'm gonna use this rescue because this is a rescue I use personally. I've been using the iAdventure Beamers since 2010 or something, so for the past 14 years. They have been my faithful companions. I've used them a lot. Most of my rescues were with them, so I flew the rescue something like 18 times, and most of the time it was with a Beamer. The Beamer 3 is the latest one. I'm using the size 130 because it's always better to use a bigger size, whether you are using a normal rescue like the Beamer or a square or a round rescue. It's always important to use a bigger size with a rescue because then your sink rate is gonna be lower and so you're gonna land softer. And it's also gonna be more stable on the roll and pitch movement. So yeah, basically always try to use a bigger reserve. Me, I'm like 90 kilos, 92, 93 kilos with my takeoff weight, and I use 130 kilos. Even if you are 80 kilos, you should try to use 130, and only if your takeoff weight is something around like 60, 70, you should go for the 100 kilos. But otherwise, try to always stick with the 130, it's gonna be so much better. Personally, I'm using a Beamer as my main one and a Pentagon from Nova as my second one, which is basically a normal rescue. I use the Beamer as my main one because it's the best Rogallo out there and it's the best rescue option. First of all, it's steerable. Second of all, the sink rate is so much better. We are speaking about something around 3 meters per second against 5.5 meters per second for a normal reserve. So that's why I'm using the Beamer. And the fact that you can steer it, that you can direct the direction you want to go to and that you can then aim for a landing is so much better. When you choose your rescue, try to always pay attention to choose the right brand, to choose the right rescue. There are so many rescue brands, so many options, so many sizes, so many weights. Try to always pay attention to take a brand which is well known for their rescues and to take the right size. As I said, it's really important to take a bigger size. Also, when you are choosing a rescue, particularly a light rescue, really pay attention to the size, to the real size of the rescue, because most of the light rescues are just smaller rescues with, of course, lighter fabric, but mostly smaller rescues. So if you're flying ACRO and you're gonna use your rescue regularly, try to not take a light rescue, or if you do take a light rescue, try to take a bigger size in terms of rescue, a really bigger size. And if you're not flying ACRO and you choose to fly hike and fly or something else, always try to take one size up at least, even if it's gonna be 100 grams heavier. It's gonna be a lot better when you throw it because you're gonna land a lot softer and that's gonna be so much better. If you are using a Rogallo, I strongly advise you to really pay attention to which brand you are buying. There are many options in terms of Rogallos on the market, and I personally believe that iAdventure is the best one. I've been using them since I was a child, since way before we entered in a partnership. And I believe that not only because the quality of the rescue is better, it's mainly because they are testing thoroughly each of their rescues. Each rescue is tested so much and so deeply. They are throwing hundreds of times each rescues in order to make sure that they are behaving exactly as they should. And so that's why I'm really vouching for this brand, and that's why I'm really supporting this brand, because I know how much importance they give to the development of their rescues. For many brands which are making rescues, many paragliding brands which are making Rogallos, they are not paying that much attention to the development of the Rogallos, and they are not testing them as much. And so you can have mishaps with Rogallos which are stalling in inappropriate times or which have weird behaviors. You won't have that in a Beamer because it's tested so thoroughly that it's always gonna give you the best performances. Of course, using a Beamer is not always perfect. There are inconveniences to using a Beamer. The main one, and the one people will think about the most, is the packing. In my opinion, it's the wrong way to think, because packing a Beamer is not that complicated. Personally, it will take me around 10 to 15 minutes to pack a Beamer, which is not that long, and once you get the hang of it, it's not much more complicated to pack than a normal rescue. Of course, it's slightly more complicated, but you will learn it quickly and it won't be an issue after a few packs. The other inconvenience is that in order to use a Rogallo and a Beamer correctly, you need to be prepared mentally. It's not a rescue like the usual rescues where you put it in your harness, you throw it on the day you need it, and you don't ask yourself any questions. With a Rogallo, with a Beamer, you need to have a plan, you need to be ready, and you need to know how to use it in order to use it properly, because if you don't use it properly, then you will not enjoy all the advantages of a Rogallo, and then it might be even more of an issue than a real solution. So what are the main advantages? The main advantages is that you can steer it, and that you can actually land wherever you want, and that the sink rate is good. But if you can steer it, it means that the Rogallo is moving in some certain directions. And that can be also the worst thing about a Rogallo, because a Rogallo, if you don't take care about it, if you don't steer it at all, it's gonna fly to some direction. And if it's flying to the wrong direction, then you're gonna end up in the wrong spot, all right? That's why when you use a Beamer, you need to always pay attention straight away after you throw it to the direction it opened to and to the direction it's gonna fly into. Because what you want is really to avoid flying into the wrong direction. If you fly above a city and you have only the city to land on, even with a Beamer, it's gonna be a tricky landing. So the first thing you should always do when you have a Rogallo is actually to fly into the right direction. Okay, that is super, super important. One of the other things with the Rogallo, which is a bit annoying, is that if with a normal reserve, once you pull the reserve, in order to avoid the downplane effect, you need just to neutralize the glider. Just stalling it or just pulling on the rear risers is usually enough to totally neutralize the glider so that it doesn't disturb the rescue. With a Beamer, if you do only that, you're gonna kind of decrease the sink rate and really slow down the speed with which the Rogallo is going forward. So then you're gonna lose a lot of the properties, the good properties of the Rogallo. So what you need to do is to try to really bring back the glider towards you. If you don't, it's okay. The Rogallo is still a better option than a normal reserve, but you're not gonna use the full advantages of this rescue, okay? So it's always better to bring back the glider towards you if you have the time, in order to really be able to enjoy the Rogallo as it should be. So let's go into the heart of the subject, how to use your rescue. Personally, I have a sequence of actions that I always do when I want to use my rescue. This is my own, and I don't ask you to have the exact same one, but this is the one I use in order to make sure that I always do things properly, all right? When you want to use your rescue, you are usually in a situation where you are out of control, you lost control. To pull the rescue correctly, the first thing you do is you grab both brakes into one hand, reach for the rescue handle, throw the rescue as far away from yourself as possible. Then you get ready to throw the second one in case the first one doesn't open. If you don't have a second one, then you are finger crossed your first rescue opens. But if you do, you get ready to throw the second one. Then you check if your rescue is well open. If your rescue is opened correctly and you have a Rogallo, the first thing you do is you stall the glider to make sure that it doesn't disturb the Rogallo. And then you're gonna steer the Rogallo in order to make sure that the Rogallo is flying into the right direction, okay? If the Rogallo is already flying into the right direction, then no worries. You're just gonna try to bring back the glider. So what I usually do, I stall the glider. If the glider is not stalled properly, I just make a lot of hand wraps in order to make sure that the glider is stalled. And then I'm just gonna bring the glider back to me, try to store it in between my legs. If you are really in a hurry because you don't have that much altitude, then you can just leave part of the glider hanging around. But if you are in a hurry, if you are not in a hurry, then you just store it in between your legs, so the glider is not a disturbance. As soon as you have done that, most people will stop there. But now you still have some things to do if you want to use your rescue properly. So you steer your rescue, you are checking your landing, checking where you're gonna land, aiming for the best landing spot. It doesn't have to be the landing, it just has to be a field, all right? So you're gonna aim and approach that landing. Be careful on a Rogallo, this glide is not that good. So always try to aim for something which is really close to yourself, all right? You're gonna aim for the landing, and what's really important is you're gonna always stand up. The Rogallo is gonna, and the rescues in general, are gonna always be attached to your shoulders. So it's gonna kind of lift you up already, stand you up already, but it's important to really stand up so that you can, as much as possible, soften the impact when you land, because even if it's only 3 meters per second for a Rogallo, it's still a strong impact. So what I do is I'll always stand up. I aim for my landing, I'm standing up. If I can, I get comfortable. For example, I can unbuckle something which is bothering me or something, but I try to get comfortable. And then when I'm gonna land, I have the Rogallo. I'm just gonna brake, arrive for the landing. If I land a bit stronger than I thought, I will just roll, or if I manage, I will just stand up, all right? And then you are safely on the ground, all right? Of course, all of this doesn't apply if you are dead low. If you are dead low, what you should do, and the only thing you should do, is grab both brakes, pull the first rescue, pull the second rescue if you are super low, and then just stand up and hope for the landing, all right? Don't take care about anything else, just pull the first rescue, pull the second rescue. That's my technique if I'm super low. I always try to pull both, and what the hell happened, all right? But if you are super low, don't hesitate, pull the rescue immediately, don't take care about the rest, just grab both brakes in order to make sure that the glider doesn't overshoot. Stall the glider if you have time, but otherwise just pull the rescues and stand up, all right? You never know, every second might count if you are super low, all right? About the Rogallo. So one thing which is really important to know about the Rogallo is that a Rogallo, first of all, doesn't steer like a glider does. A Rogallo takes time to steer. And secondly, it takes a lot of brake amplitude in order to steer. So if you want to steer with the Rogallo, you need to pull quite hard and low on the brake, and you need to wait a little bit for the Rogallo to turn. It's not like as reactive as a normal glider. Once you know that, that's fairly easy. Another thing you need to know is that most Rogallos nowadays have what we call locked brake. So basically the brakes are locked on a certain braking position so that the Rogallo will not move forward as much when you open it. If you are under the rescue and you just unpin one of the brake, the other brake will stay locked. So basically, as soon as you're gonna release the brake, the Rogallo is gonna always turn to the sides where the brake is pinned. So always try to unpin both brakes in order to make sure that your Rogallo is flying freely forward, okay? Once you have unpinned your brakes, etc., you will be able to steer your Rogallo. But one thing which is also important to know is that sometimes for some people, finding the brakes is not that easy, all right? Because you are not used to throw your Rogallo, so it's not always intuitive to find your brakes. What I do usually, if I can't find them, is that my Rogallo is always attached to the shoulders, all right? And my risers of the Rogallo are also on the shoulders. So what I do is I go to my shoulder and I follow the Rogallo risers and I will find the brake along the way, okay? That's what I always do. One thing to know is that the Rogallo often, not always, but often opens up with twist. It's probably because when you throw the containers, it can move in any direction and so create twist. But you have to know that quite often you will end up twisted under the Rogallo. If you don't bring back the glider all the way to you, it's going to be impossible to untwist. And even if you do bring back the glider and completely store it between your legs, it's still going to be hard to open the twist. Even though, and even with the twist, the Rogallo is really easy to steer. Basically, the twist doesn't block the steering of the Rogallo. So you will see in the tutorial afterwards, I will always have twist with my Rogallo, and it's never gonna prevent me from steering and from choosing a landing with my Rogallo. So even with the twist, you can always steer the Rogallo. It can happen that you have so much twist that you cannot steer the Rogallo properly, which means that you have like 15, 20 twists, and then if you brake, the brake is not gonna slide back up. But that's not an issue with the Rogallo, because the only thing you have to do then is just slightly brake to go forward, slightly brake with the other brake, and then you are going forward slightly, and the brakes are not going back up as soon as they are symmetric. All right, so you brake, you turn, you brake with the other one to be symmetric, and then you wait. And then you slowly adjust if you need, always keeping in mind that you're gonna brake a little more, and you need to brake the other one to be symmetric, okay? But this happens only in really, really rare scenarios. In most of the other scenarios, even with 5, 6, 7 twists, the Rogallo is gonna open and it's gonna be steerable perfectly, okay? One last piece of advice is it's really, really important as a pilot to always make rescue handle check. Every flight you should make rescue handle checks in order to make sure that you know where your rescue handle is and that you know where to find it. It should be automatic, okay? You should not have to search for it and not find it. You should always be able to go to your rescue handle. So you should always make rescue handle check. If you change harnesses and the rescue handle is not at the same spot, you should always make 1 or 2 a day, a flight, to make sure that if you need to pull the reserve, you will actually find the rescue handle really quickly. However, it might happen that when you pull the reserve, you are not in the perfect scenario and the rescue handle is not located in the same situation as it was before because you are slightly out of the harness, so you go for the normal position and it's not. And the piece of advice I can give you, I've used it once only, but it really saved my ass that day, is that then you can just put your hand along your knee and slide up to your thighs, and the rescue handle is gonna be somewhere. And as soon as you feel it, then you grab it, okay? So really put your hand there, slide, and then you're gonna find it. Of course, if you have a front container, you will never have this issue. But as soon as you have a normal rescue system, your rescue handle is gonna be findable by sliding towards your thighs, and you're gonna always find it, okay? It's really important to remember this piece of advice. Hopefully you never need it, but the day you might need it might save your life, all right? We are gonna grab both brakes, go for the rescue handle, throw it as far away as possible. As soon as it's open, we are gonna stall the glider, direct the Rogallo, all right? 1, 2, 3, and we pull, throw, it's opening. Perfect. Now I'm gonna stall the glider. Good. And the Rogallo is going in the right direction, so I'm gonna bring back the glider. Perfect. All right. All right. So now I have a few twists. It's okay. Even with a few twists, I'm gonna direct my Rogallo. So here you see, I'm gonna turn in order to turn to face the landing. So here you see I'm turning, boom, to face the landing. Perfect. Even if I'm twisted, it's okay. All right. So I'm gonna make an approach in order to turn facing the landing. You see, even with the twist, the Rogallo is totally okay. All right. All right. So here we are. You see, when you pull the rescue, even if you have a few twists, here I had like, I don't know, 3, 4 twists, the Rogallo is still steerable. The most important is just to neutralize the glider to bring it back towards you. As soon as you have it towards you, then you can direct the Rogallo even with the twist. And the landing is usually a bit softer if you land without the twist because you can really see the ground. But still, the landing is quite soft enough even with the twist. So now we are gonna try to do it again. So, when you have your rescue folded, one really important piece of advice and one really important thing is when you put it into the pocket, of course you put the lines first, into the pocket. All right. But the most important is that the rescue handle, where it is attached to the containers, is always going upwards. So it's always facing the seat plate. Because if it's facing the seat plates and you are pulling the rescue, it's gonna slide out. While if it's facing the other way around, if it's facing the ground when you are flying, it's gonna lock it. So you always want to have the rescue handle, the attachment point to the container, facing the seat plate like this. When you pull it, it's sliding out. All right, that is really, really, really important. Okay, I'm gonna take both brakes in one hand, and then the rescue is gonna open. I'm going for my rescue handle. I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and I pull. The rescue opened. Good, good. The rescue is going into the wrong direction. So I'm gonna turn it so that it's going into the right direction, and then I'm bringing back the glider. Perfect. So as soon as you have the glider, it's really easy to bring it back. All right, perfect. So now I catch the glider. Perfect. So now, as you can see, it's really hard to look up. So I'm just gonna turn the rescue to go into the right direction. Okay, so you have to watch which is the right direction. Perfect. Good. Now I'm more or less in the right direction. I'm a bit twisted still, but it's okay. I can try to untwist, but it's not so easy to untwist. Here I'm turning, so I'm gonna steer again to make sure I'm going into the right direction. All right, and we brake. All right. So here you see, that's good. All right, that's the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it will never be useful for you, but if it is, I hope you will remember some pieces of advice I'm giving you in this tutorial. And I hope that it's gonna save your life one day. Remember that it's never a shame to use your reserves. There should be no shame in using your reserves. Using your reserve means that you actually took the right decision, you choose to survive, and that you should be proud of yourself for doing so. And I'm personally proud of all the time I used my reserve, and you should be as well. Just remember to create your own plan on how to use your reserve. Try to think about it, try to think about how I should do it. You don't have to copy paste my way of doing it. What you have to do is find your own way, and you have to keep it in mind every time. Every flight could end up under a reserve, and this should be kept in mind. All right?